I looked at 6 different websites, and one cost nothing to build and the other one almost $2 billion. The difference between these two will genuinely surprise you. Okay, let's get going. At $0, the free Dawn team on Shopify. This is where every beginning entrepreneur starts. They go into Shopify, there are tons of different free options, and honestly, when you look at it, it's not embarrassing. There's a clean layout, big product image, price visible immediately, add to cart is right there, featured collections below the fold, policies in the footer, it all works. For $0, you have a completely functioning site on the internet. But here's what's missing. There's no reason to trust it. No reviews, no social proof, nothing that tells you another human bought from here. The product description is just placeholder text. And once you've inserted all your imagery and text, everything falls apart. The design that you chose is nothing what your site will eventually look like. And that's why a free theme gets you started, but doesn't get you very far. And that's the gap between a site that just exists and a site that really sells. And that is exactly what the rest of this video is about. So let's just keep moving and go to a much more expensive site design. Now here's a story for you. Founder Michael Lynch ran a company called TinyPilot. It's a company that offers hardware for IT professionals. Heck, the founder is even a software developer himself. They had a monthly revenue of about $45,000. His website looked amateuristic and he really wanted to change that. He interviewed a bunch of agencies, he picked one, and eventually they came back with a proposal. They were going to build 3 pages for about 30 to 40 hours of work at an average hourly rate of $175. The whole project would take just 4 weeks and only $45,000. He signed the contract and he got excited. They got to work. From the start, everything went flawless. They had bi-weekly meetings, regular check-ins, they would send him samples and examples, everything that they've worked on. Michael felt that this is exactly what it feels like to spend your money on an agency. Everything was going according to plan. And then week 7 came by. The agency started showing some custom illustrations nobody asked for, and Michael pushed back. The designer said, "Oh yeah, don't worry, these are just some random IDs." But actually, they started billing for a full website redesign. Now in month 3, the logo was still not completed and they started redesigning the blog. Again, something nobody asked for. And now December came around and the communication completely stopped. Michael started calling the CEO. The CEO said that their project manager had left the business and that TinyPilot is a very small client. What turns out, the agency started spending their hours whenever they were bored, whenever there was nothing else to do. The project is so small that they were not prioritizing Michael's TinyPilot. Michael asked, "Can you commit to completing it within 2 months?" And the CEO said that he's not sure when they will have the hours available. He suggested to move the contract to a retainer of $6,400 per month. The catch? Everything was for 80% done, and eventually nothing was shipped. The retainer runs, but work remains slow. They need to change the code framework, which takes 5 weeks and $6,000 to complete in itself. Then in week 7, he has already spent $45,000 and still nothing has shipped. Michael issues a termination notice. And this is where everything changed. The company that supported the new website all of a sudden started moving how Michael would have expected it on day 1. Everything got done very quickly after that. And eventually the site launches. And here it is. And honestly, everything looks good. All the information that a general IT buyer needs is clearly visible on the page. Unique selling points, warranties, instructions, social proof, all the details that a general improved website requires to generate a higher performance. In the first month after going live, Michael increased his conversion rate with 46%, and that led to record sales within the first month. Michael started writing a blog post that went viral titled, "I regret my $46,000 website." Later, he did admit that financially it still made sense. He made a good buck out of this investment, but the whole process was incredibly tedious, and eventually he still regretted building this website with these guys. But what do you think? Would it be worth it to go through all this hassle to eventually still improve the business with these insane numbers? Let's move on to website number 3. And now we're getting into the insane budgets for a new website. This story is about Hertz, a car rental company. You've probably seen it everywhere. They're incredibly yellow at every airport and they scream at you to rent a car. But what does a company like that do when their site is dated back in 2026? It's a billion-dollar company. So basically, their way to go is to hire Accenture, one of the world's leading consultancy firms. The contract includes a complete new redesign, new website, new mobile app, responsive on all devices, but for a staggering $32 million. And the timeline from August 2016 to December 2017, 16 months and $32 million. Accenture gets to work, but December 2027 comes by, but no site. They postponed the deadline to January next year. January comes by and still no site. They postponed it once more to April. Now April comes by and this is what Accenture has delivered after almost 20 months of work and $32 million. The customer-facing e-commerce section, it had security vulnerabilities so severe that every single line of Accenture's code had to be scrapped, all of it. The tablet version, Accenture had decided only desktop and mobile were needed. And for a tablet layout, which was the original spec, they demanded hundreds of thousands of dollars in extra fees. The entire code base was written specifically for Hertz North America. Hertz owned Dollar Rent-A-Car and Thrifty, but neither brand could use any of it. No real-world testing, no error handling, and Hertz fired Accenture, sued them for the full $32 million in April 2019. And the website never went live. Not a beta, not a soft launch, not a single page a customer ever saw. Hertz eventually sued Accenture for the $32 million. None of the pages ever went live. No customer ever interacted with all the work done in 20 different months. And when I say that, I want that to sink in, because the next one is going to be 3 times more expensive. 150 million pounds. That is what Marks & Spencer's, Britain's biggest clothing retail store, has invested in their e-commerce presence. Since 2007, they've been running their online presence on Amazon. Amazon owned the customer and owned the funnel. And they wanted to change this. They brought in a 50-person development team to roll this out. And some of their ideas were genuinely ambitious. A full editorial magazine section, Style and Living, with fashion journalists and celebrity guest editors. Shop this outfit, links on every product page, and separate experiences designed specifically for desktop, tablet, and mobile. Predictive search built from scratch. The website crashed within days of launch. Every customer they acquired through Amazon, which consisted of almost 6 million customers, had to re-register on their website. After the first quarter, almost half had re-registered and the business lost half of their customers. The checkout had buttons that didn't work, and once you added products to cart, all of a sudden they would vanish. When you choose your delivery address, and some cities didn't even appear. And they changed the add to cart text to your bag. And of course, that's not going to improve performance. Customers that went to shop there very regularly all of a sudden couldn't find their way through it anymore. And later, their finance director even said in an interview, it's like going to the supermarket, but they relocated the milk. Of course, that is going to hurt the business massively. And what they noticed is that the conversion and the performance dropped by 8%. So they spent 2.5 years. 50 developers full-time working on this site, and their performance dropped with 8%. Here the lesson is that improving your site is crucial, but just by improving it, it doesn't mean you get a better design. Design is great for branding and does give a little bit of a flavor to your business, but it could definitely hurt your conversions too. The best way is to test with data-driven design choices. You can instantly figure out if this improves your conversions or if it does not. We as a CRO agency go through this day in and day out. We know what works. So if you want to improve the business and improve the conversion rate of your store, definitely reach out to us. Last up, Healthcare.gov. The US government wanted a website where US citizens could sign up to manage their health insurance. And how much this has cost eventually will blow you away. The initial contract with the agency that got hired, the CGI Federal, was at 93 million. But before the contract even started, it already went up to 292 million. And that is still a fraction of what it eventually has costed. 8 months before the website was supposed to go live, they hired the external consultancy firm McKinsey. And they already found out that the project is very likely to fail. They continued anyway. The government kept changing and changing the requirements up until summer 2013. CGI Federal, the agency, was coding specs that kept changing from week to week. And after the disastrous launch, the agency got fired. A new contractor came in. Just like Hertz, they hired Accenture. The contract was initially for 92 million, but here also, a year later, that already went up to 175 million. The Office of Inspector General eventually said that everything that was done to build this site over the years, the multiple agencies and the multiple government employees involved, eventually ran up to a bill of $1.7 billion. October 1st, 2013, launch day. And here's what the site asked you when you entered. You had to register. You had to give your name, your address, and you had to do a verification on a third-party app. And after that, then you could see your first insurance option. The page took 8 seconds to load, and they ran a stress test that if 1,100 users are on the site at the same time, it would crash. Not 4,000, not 11 million, 1,100. The White House wanted to publish anyway on the 1st of October, and they went ahead. 4 million people visited the site on the first day, and only 6 people signed up. And here is what these 6 sites actually taught me. Hertz invested millions in improving their digital experience, but eventually none of their pages saw the day of light. For M&S, they also invested millions, but on the first day of their launch, they lost half of their customers. And customers lost the way to find a product, and their revenue dropped by 8%. And then of course the US government, who spent billions to make something work that eventually had incredibly small issues that caused only 6 people to sign up. Lorem ipsum text was everywhere. So what's basically a red line in this story is that the amount of money that has been invested is nowhere near the quality that you can expect from it. And generally, you want to improve gradually. At the beginning, you don't really know what the customer needs. So it becomes a guesswork to make a design, spend millions and go live. And gradually improving and testing exactly what works, like for example Booking.com that runs 25,000 tests to really figure out what works. And that really improves the needle. So if you're building your e-commerce store, learn from every different element and test rather than going from 1 to 0. Okay, let's wrap up here. If you like to learn how to improve your e-commerce performance, definitely subscribe to the channel. And if you want to see what's holding your store back, leave your link down below and I'll let you know 3 different elements that I would improve instantly to grow the performance of your business.